Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. In this episode, we'll start creating the classes, and this guy is a struct, by the way, a structure, so that at least we won't have any errors in these four files. Now, to start with, I will add a sub namespace inside graph, here called IO, in both of these, common and common editor. Now, the IO will have a class called node input and one for node output. And we should become okay here, not okay yet here. Inside here, we will have a node input schema and node output schema. So import, we are okay here, and we are okay here. Now, we need a unique ID and inline value. Well, unique ID is in common. So I will put a class called unique ID. And it's not a class, actually, it's a struct. There we go. So if I come back here, because it's inside utility common, it's inside boss utility, it will see it, okay? And I forgot something here. My default namespace is boss common. And this guy is boss common editor. There we go. So now this will become boss common. And this guy will become boss common because it is inside common. Wait. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, Control-Shift-R, adjust namespaces for everything. There we go. And Control-Shift-R, adjust namespaces for everything. There we go. Okay. So inline value, actually, do I want to keep it here? I'm debating. Nope. Infrastructure. There we go. Move it there. And Control-Shift-R, adjust namespaces there. So what is wrong with you now? Why did you derp out? Anyway, so why are you not happy now? And what's wrong with you? Huh. Unique ID, first things first, make it serializable. Nah. Why are you not seeing it? Unique ID. Derp. No, I'm not missing anything. It's here. Infrastructure is providing a namespace. Well, let's see. Things happen every now and then. So inside common, don't have anything there. Open it. Huh. Common dot graph and graph IO. Huh. Okay. Please create infrastructure for me. Blah. Include in project. Thank you. Huh, there we go. So it was derping. It was derping after all. So, not sure what happened there. But inside infrastructure, now I want another class this time, inline value. Okay? And again, this guy will be serializable. So now we have no errors. Okay, but here is 4 errors for you because, yeah, I needed to import namespaces. What? Remember, with the same name is already declared. How? Okay, making it back. Oh. Well, stupid resharper. This is working. I'm not sure what's going on here. It was for a second yelling at me that it was error, but it's not. Meh. Whatever. So, long story short, we don't have any errors there. Now, where to start from? Where to start from? Unique ID, why not starting with it? Well, the unique ID is a code that I found online on a very old website. It was 2007, I think. It's a struct that uses the GUID, but then encodes the GUID into a short version of a string that even is URL friendly. But at the same time, it needs implementing our serialization callback receiver inside Unity engine, and we implement both missing members. Okay, we will come to that later. But we will have a public static read-only unique ID empty equals to new unique ID with GUID.empty. Now, we don't have this constructor, but we will have it in a few minutes. So we say GUID underline GUID. Then we will have a serialized field, and we call it private string value. Another serialized field, private string GUID string. Okay, now the constructors that has a value, and then we say the GUID equals to a method that we don't have, decode a value. And then we say GUID string equals to the GUID dot toString. Then we will have another constructor that accepts the GUID, and this will solve this guy. Okay. Now before that we say the value equals to encode that we don't have yet of the GUID. Okay. And after that we say the GUID string equals the GUID we sent in dot toString. Okay, now we want to have two properties to wrap around the value and the GUID. So we say public GUID, and we call it GUID. Get returns the GUID. The set says if the value does not equals to the GUID, a bit of optimization then we say the GUID, typo, equals to the value, and then we say the value equals to encode the value. I'm lazy. Tools of devil. Copy paste. It will return a string that is the value, and it returns the underline value. We check if the value is not equals to the value. Then we say the GUID equals to decode of the value we sent in, and the value equals the value. Okay. Now the toString, so public override string toString simply returns the value, and will now we want a public override equals. Here we say if the object that we sent in is unique ID, then we return the underline GUID dot equals be typecast to unique ID, the obj, and then we get its GUID. Then we say if the object is a GUID, then we return the underline GUID dot equals to typecast to unique ID, typecast to GUID of the object. Okay. Now you will see this will throw an error. That is not what I wanted. Return. Okay, not this one, but one of these guys will return an error somewhere. I remember that because we are using some implicits. So this one is that object is string. Okay, so if the object is a string, we want to return the GUID dot equals to unique ID of obj dot GUID. Now you see that we are typecasting this string to unique ID. ReSharper is not showing the problem right now, but how can I typecast a string to a unique ID? Well, it's some implicits that we will put inside. So if any one of them is not happening, then return false. Then we have public override get hash code that simply returns the GUID dot get hash code. Okay. Now we want to have methods. So public static that returns a unique ID, and we call it create. It will return a new unique ID from GUID dot new GUID. Okay. Then we have our encode. So public static string encode that accepts a string value. Here we say GUID, come on, GUID equals to new GUID from the value. Then we say return encode of the GUID. Now this is an overload that we will write right now. So public static string encode that accepts a GUID, and we call it GUID. Now the whole magic for encoding, converting a GUID to a string, happens here. We say string encoded equals to convert dot to base 64 string the GUID that we sent in dot to byte array. So we get the byte array of the GUID, then convert that byte array to a string. Then we want to say encoded equals to encoded encoded dot replace any instance of forward slash with underline, and that is what is creating URL friendly stuff. Okay, not remove, replace, come on. Then dot replace any instance of plus with dash. Okay, then we say return encoded dot substring of 0, 22. So we just keep 22 first characters inside this string because the last two are just equal. That's our encode. Now we say public that we want to be not a string, static, that returns a GUID, and we say decode. Decode accepts a string as value, and we basically reverse the stuff. So we say value equals to value dot replace the underline we got with forward slash dot replace the dash with the plus. So we reverse that part, okay? Then we say byte array, and we call it buffer, equals to convert dot from base 64 string of value plus equal, and that's what we removed from the substring. Okay, now that we have the byte array, we say return new GUID from buffer. Okay, now if you ever used equal inside an if block, they are called operators, and we want to have some operators for our case. So we say public static that returns a bool, and it's an operator. The operator is equal that accepts a unique ID X, another unique ID Y. We want to see if these guys are equal to each other. So we simply say return X dot underline GUID equals to Y dot underline GUID. Now, each time you have an equal, it says to create non-equal to. And it's really simple. It reverts the equal and returns it. Cool. Now, if you recall, I said we want some implicit conversions that will implicitly convert a string to a unique ID, for example, or a unique ID to a string, blah, 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 blah. And here are coming. So we say public static implicit operator that returns a string from a unique ID, we call it ID. So this one is responsible of converting a unique ID to a string. We simply return the ID dot underline value. Then public static, not string, static implicit operator that returns a GUID from a unique ID, we call it ID. We simply return the ID dot underline GUID. And why are you not cooperating with me? ID dot underline GUID. Okay. Then we have public static implicit operator that returns a unique ID from a string value. So this is what is solving this case, that we are converting a string to we are casting a string to unique ID. Okay, that returns, come on, return a new unique ID, and we are using our constructors by value. Then we say public static implicit operator that returns a unique ID from a GUID, that we say GUID, and we return a new unique ID, and we use another one of our own constructors that uses a unique ID. Now, on before serialize and on after serialize are the methods that comes by inheriting this interface from Unity engine. Whenever we are serializing something, before the serialization start, this method will be called. And when the serialization or deserialization, actually the deserialization, sorry, when the deserialization is ended, so this one is happening before the serialization starts, this one is being called after the deserialization is called. So when the deserialization is finished, this one will be called. Okay, this one is simple to implement. All we want to say GUID equals to new GUID from a string. The string is open curly brace plus the GUID string that we have plus the closing curly brace. The reason is that Unity, and this is a lesson I learned the hard way, never ever do assumptions on what Unity can serialize and can't serialize. You see this, that I made a private, and actually it is like this, non-serialized. Because Unity is not capable of serializing a GUID, even if it sits inside the serializable class. That is why I have this guy, and you see that it is a GUID toString. When you use the toString without anything, if you recall, the GUIDs are starting with curly braces with some code, dash some code. Okay? What the toString does is remove these curly braces without any parameters. And I can simply serialize a string. Cool. But then, whenever it is being deserialized, I want the GUID to be recreated from the thing that I serialized myself. Make sense? Hopefully. So we say if, before serialization start, we say if the GUID does not equals to GUID.empty. So if we are not empty, or the GUID.toString does not equals to. Now, I forgot how many zeros this guy has. Yeah, lots of zeros. So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dash 4, dash 4, dash 4, dash 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay? Or the GUID.toString does not equals to curly braces, the same thing. Okay? So if none of these cases met, then I say GUID string equals to the GUID.toString. Okay? Then we say if the GUID string dot substring of 0, 1 equals to a curly brace, then we say GUID string equals to GUID string, if I can't find it, dot substring of 1, comma, the GUID string dot length minus 1. So we are dropping the starting curly brace, if it's there. If the GUID string dot substring of the GUID string dot length minus 1, comma 1 equals to the closing the closing curly brace, then we want to say GUID string equals to GUID string dot substring of 0, comma, the length minus 1. So we are dropping the closing curly brace. Okay? Else if it's equals to one of these things, we simply say the GUID string equals to decode of our value that we have dot to string. Okay? And that's it, basically. And we have our unique ID now. You may notice some warnings and stuff. For example, it says make method decode private. Yeah, why not? Encode private. Yeah, why not? Now here is interesting. To private. If I make it to private, it says that, hey, do it public, blah, blah, because it's not ever used. And I'm developing an API, so I will give you an ability to, use it. Now this one, make the GUID read only, but I'm sure it will yell at me because I tried it before and it gave me problems. So now, make constructor to private. Shut up, and that's it. So we have our unique ID, and it's 30 minutes. The inline value, if I find it in my notes, yeah, it's a bit more involved than this guy. It's not hard. It's just, more line of code, near 600 lines of code. So I will keep it for another episode, and that would be it before we dive into our node input outputs. And again, we need to have few more very simple classes inside our infrastructure before we can start working with nodes. Anyway, until then, have fun everyone. Bye-bye.